Hello, I'm Sasha of Sasha Makes Cards, and today I'm here with Whimsy Stamps, sharing a very cute card, if I do say so myself, featuring the awesome word die, the Mix and Match Scallops die set, and the Sweet Strawberries clear stamp set. I first started by stamping my image and sentiment onto 100-pound hammermill cardstock using Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink. The image I decided to go with was the group of the 4 little berries in the basket with the bow, because I thought it would go perfectly with the colors and the theme I was wanting to do. And then for the sentiment, I decided to go with the You're So Berry Awesome. Since I'm going to be using the awesome word die, I thought that would be perfect to kind of fussy cut around the You're So Berry, crop out the awesome, and then it'd go really nicely with the die. I don't normally stamp the sentiment at the same time as I stamp the image. It makes sense to, but I don't usually, honestly, just because I don't usually know what I'm doing. But since I knew this time that I was going to be using this sentiment with the awesome die, I stamped it all at once. Once I was ready, I then fussy cut both the image and the sentiment using a pair of spring-assisted scissors, and then I can move on to coloring my image. Today I'm using Ohuhu alcohol markers to color. As you saw up on the screen there, I put together the little color combination chart. Today I'm going for a red, pink, and a neutral gray color combination. I think it'll be super cute with the little strawberries. As well, I always have the colors that I am currently using up on the screen in the bottom left-hand corner, so that it is very easy to see which colors I'm using and how I'm coloring. Working from my darkest color to my lightest color, I first started by coloring 2 out of 4 of the little strawberries using the red color combination. I first started with R8, moving on to R2, then R3, and lastly R1. After the red, I then moved on to the pink color combination, coloring the other 2 strawberries and the bow this cute pink color. For these colors, I used R9, then RV270, then RV260, and then lastly RV010. As for the basket, I colored it in neutral gray color combination, starting with CG070, next CG050, then CG030, and lastly CG020. Once I was done with the alcohol markers, I then used some Prismacolor Premier colored pencils to add some more depth and color to the image. Once I was done with the coloring, I could then move on to die cutting all of the pieces that I would need. Since I wanted to create kind of an offset shadow for the word die, I die cut the awesome word die using both scrap pieces of white and black cardstock, so that I can then offset the one and create a super simple shadow effect when gluing them together. I also die cut from the Mix and Match Scallops die set, I die cut the 3 largest frames, 2 of which are the scallops and then 1 of just the regular stitched border. Since my plan for these frames is to layer them on top of each other, I die cut all of them using white cardstock. 2 of the frames I plan on ink blending and creating a fun gradient, and then the 1 will remain white. To match the color theme that I went for with the strawberry image, I decided to create a super simple gradient using some different colors of red and pink inks. For this, I'm using Festive Berries Distress Oxide, Worn Lipstick Distress Oxide, and Spun Sugar Distress Oxide. To create some nice contrast, I decided to ink blend only 2 of the 3 frames that I die cut, ink blending both the scalloped frames and leaving the regular stitched border white. Since only one of these layers is going to be completely visible, I realized kind of halfway through ink blending the bottom layer that you really only saw the edges, so that's why I only finished ink blending the edges rather than creating a full gradient on the entire layer. To achieve a nice even gradient, I simply start by using one ink and then going into the next ink. For example, I'll start with the Festive Berries Distress Oxide, And once I'm happy with that, moving on to the next color, which in this case is the Worn Lipstick Distress Oxide, going back and forth between the different brushes and the colors until I'm happy with a nice even gradient. Some inks are definitely easier to blend than others, but with a little bit of practice, it gets pretty easy to create nice even transitions between colors using your inks. Now, because I couldn't resist, I can never resist this, I had to splatter the cards. I first started by taking a fan brush and splattering each of these 2 layers with water before moving on to splattering with the same fan brush a bleed-proof white paint. Now, it depends on what kind of ink or paint you use, but I like to spritz a little bit of water on mine to help water it down a little bit so that it is easier to splatter with. Now all there's left to do is to glue everything all together. Using some liquid adhesive, for this I'm using Barely Art Glue, I start by gluing the black Awesome Word dye onto the white to create that little offset shadow that I was talking about earlier. From here, I then glue down all of the layers onto my card base. Glue down the first largest frame, which is one of the ink blended frames first, and then the white stitched frame, and lastly the third smallest frame that I die cut, which also has that reddish pink gradient I created. Then to officially finish everything off, I glued down the sentiment and the image. And that is the completed card project. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out the description below for a complete list of all the Whimsy Stamps products I used to create this card, as well as some links to check them out if you would like, as well as links to both my social media and the Whimsy Stamps social media. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.